Ask Reddit. Lawyers of Reddit. What is a detail that your client failed to bring up to you that completely lost you the case? A friend of mine is a lawyer, and he said that a client once turned up to court in the actual same outfit he was wearing in the burglary. When the CCTV footage come up in evidence, the client looked down to himself and was like, "Oh shit." Not a lawyer yet, but I clerked for a DA's office throughout law school. Obviously, we don't have clients, but I'll never forget this kidnapping case I worked on. It involved two Asian male defendants who were both the same age and looked relatively similar. Witness is on the stand and is asked to identify where the defendant who pushed an Uzi into his face is seated. It's clear the witnesses is having trouble differentiating the defendants. In a true moment of brilliance, one defendant raises his fucking hand and basically points to himself like, "Right here, bud." Hands down the dumbest shit I'd ever seen. I thought his defense attorney was going to have a brain aneurysm. Who has two thumbs and shoved a submachine gun in your face? I'm still a law student, and this happened during my first internship at a court. A girl, among other people, was charged with drug possession. But because she had thrown away the drugs and the police couldn't prove that she bought or owned the drugs, because it could have been one of the other people as well who still had drugs on them, the judge ruled in dubio pro reo. He then asked if she wants to say or add something, and this girl asked if she can get her drugs back. The defense attorney looked like he was about to get a heart attack. I am actually a lawyer, but I was only watching this trial, not participating. So the case was that woman A had hit woman B in the head with a heavy beer pint at a bar, and woman B got pretty serious injuries. The defense claimed that woman A had not hit anyone with a pint, but instead had just thrown the pint into a random direction and it happened to hit B in the head. Thus, it was an accident and not a battery. Well, the prosecution had a CCTV tape from the bar and it was shown at a trial. And the tape clearly showed in HD as A walked behind B and smashed the pint to her head so hard that the pint shattered on impact. I looked at the defense lawyer and his jaw literally almost hit the table. The prosecutor also noticed this and asked something along, "Thrown, eh?" And the defense lawyer said that due to technical difficulties, he couldn't get the CCTV tape open on his computer when he was reviewing the evidence. Woman A was found guilty. So yeah, I was completely dumbfounded. Client and family law matter lied to me about using meth. Then used meth with a child in the room and the ex got footage of it on the nanny cam and then made excuses about why they couldn't do a drug test. Then blamed me when they lost custody. Despite the fact that they didn't show up to appointments or return my calls, so I couldn't prepare any court material. I dumped the client after that and left family law. What kind of law do you do now? I do civil law with a focus on human rights now. When I did family law, it practically sucked my soul from me. Safe to say, I'm a much happier person now that I'm not dealing with people about harming their children and using them as pawns. A defendant was written a cell phone ticket while driving and defended himself. Your Honor, I was not using a smartphone while driving. I was actually using a flip phone. Guilty. So as a technicality, if it stated on the ticket that he was using a smartphone and he was able to prove he didn't own a smartphone without saying he was using one at the time, would that get him off? Edit. My intention with this would be hoping the defendant wouldn't be dumb enough to then say, "It is this instead," but rather just say, "No, I do not own a smartphone, so I could not have been operating one while driving." A truthful and whole statement under oath. I'd assume any good lawyer would then press for further details and have it collapse. But I'm also spending my evening on Reddit, so what do I know? I'm a public defender in an area with lots of meth use. Meth makes most people talk. A lot. So I can't tell you how many clients forget to mention that they got to the jail still high and called their mom or girlfriend or buddy on the recorded jail phone and not only confessed to the crime, but also brainstormed whatever alibi or version of events I'm relying on to defend them. Edit. I'm seeing this question a lot, so I'll add some info here. This is not legal advice. Just explaining things a bit more. Calls to a lawyer are privileged and generally go through dedicated lines that aren't recorded, depending on the facility. Calls to family, friends, etc. through the normal phones are not privileged, are generally recorded, and can be used in court. There are usually printed signs near the phones and a recorded warning before each call that this is the case. Employment law matter. He claimed to have been unfairly dismissed over bogus performance management. The real reason: he organized via Craigslist to have someone collect a box of his cum from a children's playground. There were explicit messages from him asking what they did with it, and whether they rubbed it all over themselves. The employer provided us the messages. Edit: he was doing this on company time. Case as a paralegal. Negligence case. Client argued that a lack of streetlights and a cyclist he couldn't see was responsible for him hitting a wire pole. Upon discovery, the first respondent's report indicated that they found the driver in the driver's seat, pants down with porn playing on the phone. Wasn't difficult to figure out who was negligent at that point. Not a lawyer, law student, and not exactly what you asked for, but I feel like it fits here anyways. We read about a criminal case in which there wasn't enough evidence to convict the suspect, so the suspect was not guilty due to reasonable doubt, and he responded, "Thank you, Judge, I'll never do it again." DA went into appeal and dude got convicted. I'm a court-appointed attorney for qualifying individuals in family matters. Termination of parental rights case. I've been fighting to argue that parent is stable, working lawfully, has a suitable apartment, doesn't need psychotropic meds anymore, ready to be a parent, etc. After a few months of negotiating with all the parties and Department of Children, Court Services, we have a pre-trial to try and convince guardians. I meet with my client before the hearing to see if anything changed. Nope, all good. Let's get my kids. Great, that's not happening today. But let's try. We get going in court. My client, who is super hot-headed and quick to anger, gets riled up and goes off on the guardians, screaming in open court. It doesn't end there, but reveals number 1, that no longer is working, number 2, no longer in apartment, 3, doesn't want to have a relationship with guardians despite her kids loving them, 4, won't send her kids pictures of the toys they miss and can't have, 5, plans on moving out of state, 6, thinks they can live as a family off of state aid when she gets them back, and is 4 months pregnant. All in the matter of 15 seconds, I was too shocked to even react. Speechless. Not the image of stability and parental fitness I've been trying to paint since last July. Unfair dismissal case. The client claimed to have been dismissed without reason or following procedure. After we had started the case, it comes out that not only was he given 3 written warnings, but he was also called in for a disciplinary hearing before his dismissal. Don't lie to your lawyer. Similar to a doctor, I feel like not telling your lawyer everything can just hurt you. That he filmed his offenses for his YouTube channel. The cops didn't even know. A witness brought it up on day 3 of a trial. It was a nice quick change of plea that afternoon. It was a typical appointment or interview with the Immigration Committee in order to grant my client a residence permit. He was marrying a woman in my country with my country's nationality, and this is a legitimate reason to be granted a residence permit. So it was a typical procedure. At least that's what I thought. The committee is bored to death and we all want to be over it. So they asked him all typical and boring questions like how did they meet, where they live, etc. They asked these things to identify white or false marriages. At some point they asked him if he was married before and he says, "Yes, back in my home country, and I am still married actually, never got a divorce." WTF. I was stunned. Double marriage is forbidden in my country, and he never bothered to mention this detail to me. Neither to the other lawyer when we asked him. He later told me he said the truth because he was afraid to lie in front of a committee. An honest and stupid man. I got all my money though, yet we had to find another way to gain a residence permit. Oh, you made it to the end. Smash like and subscribe for more amazing content.